8 years of scandals and outrages by President Barack H. Obama, never a special counsel. Despite Fast and Furious, the IRS targeting scandal, Benghazi, Clinton's emails, the Clinton Foundation, no special counsel. What so different this time? Dems, the left-wing national media, the deep state, enabling complicit rhinos, have decided to steal the Trump White House that they lost in November and to destroy this president. But President Trump is both calm in the face of his enemies and defiant in the face of their attacks. President Trump acknowledges he is the subject of the single greatest witch hunt of a politician in American history. But he is clearly committed to delivering his agenda for the American people. The president today told reporters the appointment of Robert Mueller as special counsel hurts our country terribly, adding, quote, "It also happens to be a pure excuse for the Democrats having lost an election that they should have easily won because of the Electoral College being slanted so much in their way. That's all this is." The president's comments come as Democratic senators heard Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein admit he knew FBI Director James Comey would be fired before he wrote his memo. What motivates this Deputy Attorney General? It's all very hard to figure as things stand tonight, but we will try. Fox News Chief White House Correspondent John Roberts with our report.
Lou, President Trump said this afternoon he is close to naming a new FBI director, and sources tell Fox News that the leading candidate for the position is the former Connecticut Senator Joe Lieberman. Many Republicans believe that Lieberman would get universal confirmation in the Senate, but at least two Democratic senators, Claire McCaskill of Missouri and Patrick Leahy of Vermont, say it would be a mistake to name someone to that position with a political background. Still, nominating Joe Lieberman to be the FBI director could help turn around a relentlessly negative news cycle that has been surrounding the president.
In the East Room today with Colombia's President Santos, President Trump responded for the first time in person to the appointment of a special prosecutor to look into Russia's attempts to influence the U.S. election.
I respect the move, but the entire thing has been a witch hunt, and there is no collusion between certainly myself and my campaign. But I can always speak for myself and the Russians.
While the president said he respected the decision to appoint former FBI Director Robert Mueller to look into the matter, he also denounced it as bad for the nation.
I think it divides the country. I think we have a very divided country because of that and many other things. So I can tell you that we want to bring this great country of ours together. I hate to see anything that divides. I'm fine with whatever people want to do, but we have to get back to running this country.
The president also responded for the first time in person to a memo said to be written by former FBI Director James Comey. The memo claims that in a February Oval Office meeting, the president asked Comey to drop the investigation into Michael Flynn. Did President Trump really say that?
No. Next question.
The appointment of Robert Mueller to take over the Russia investigation was met with near universal praise on Capitol Hill.
This is an excellent appointment. He has impeccable credentials. He was a former FBI director where he served his distinction. Before that, he was a career prosecutor. He's going to follow the facts. He's going to do a thorough investigation. They need to clear the decks.
While some Republicans say there's a danger a special prosecutor could feel compelled to pursue convictions, they also thought it could work out in the president's favor if his statements about no collusion with Russia are true.
From the president's perspective, I mean, you'd rather not have any of this here, but if Mueller goes and says, look, there's no evidence of any crime here, it's going to be hard for the Democrats to argue with that.
White House staffers see the appointment as a, quote, opportunity to get back to the president's agenda without the shrill rhetoric coming off Capitol Hill. And indeed, today, Democrats do appear to have dialed it back a notch.
I now have significantly greater confidence that the investigation will follow the facts, wherever they lead.
But another controversy is rising, this one around Vice President Mike Pence and whether, as head of the transition team, he was aware Lieutenant General Michael Flynn had informed the transition he was under investigation for secretly working as a paid lobbyist for Turkey. In a March 9th interview, the vice president told Bret Baier he knew nothing of Flynn's business dealings.
The first I heard of it, and I think it is an affirmation of the president's decision to ask General Flynn to resign.
Pence's office today backed up that assertion in a statement saying, quote, the vice president stands by his comments in March upon first hearing the news regarding General Flynn's ties to Turkey.
Michael Flynn has not yet said whether he will comply with a subpoena from the Senate Intelligence Committee to come up to Capitol Hill to give testimony. James Comey, on the other hand, is said by people close to him to be eager to testify in public and also was in possession of many more memos that he has so far been keeping to himself. Lou?
John, thank you very much. John Roberts reporting from the White House. Joining us tonight to discuss whether Special Prosecutor Robert Mueller is bad for the nation and the potential train wreck that awaits on Capitol Hill as multiple committees are colliding on this investigation. Congressman Ron DeSantis, a member of several key committees, including the Oversight Committee. He's also a member of the Freedom Caucus. Congressman, great to have you with us.
Good evening.
Let me start with, why is there a special counsel and what crime is being investigated? Could you illuminate that for us?
Well, if you look at the regulation, it's triggered when there is a criminal investigation. And in this case, Comey testified in March, which is what the Deputy AG cited in his order, that it was a counterintelligence investigation. And so my response to the media who in D.C., they've been itching for a special counsel, has been, there's not a crime to investigate. It's a counterintelligence matter. And so we're going to have the Deputy AG talk before the House. It's going to be a classified session tomorrow. But I'm going to ask him, what changed and why are you now doing a special counsel? I actually think it could end up working out to the president's benefit in the long run. But at the end of the day, special counsels are for criminal matters, not for counterintelligence matters.
And what has been the reaction when you say that? Because the rest of us are saying it too. Where is the crime and why is there such acquiescence to the insane calls for a special counsel on part of the deep state, the Dems, the left-wing national media? I mean, this is horrific, horrific conduct on the part of our government.
Well, you're right. We have an iron triangle, the elements of the permanent bureaucracy, the Democratic Party, and the elite media. They are at war with this administration and with this president. And ever since November 8th, as soon as the returns came in and he was president-elect, they've been trying to destroy him even before he took office and now. And so they create this frenzy of, oh my gosh, there was a contact, maybe a bit of contact. Anonymous sources, of course. We never have anyone speaking for the record. We never have any actual documents. But it's story after story. The Dems getting the tizzy, all this other stuff. And I think the Deputy AG, I just think that he caved and did this because he was taking a lot of...
As being a weak person? Is he this intellectually, is he so bereft of principle that he acquiesces to the popular opinion of the national left-wing media? I mean, good Lord Almighty.
Well, I'm going to ask him.
We need an independent counsel on his conduct, his principles, and his values.
So I'm going to ask him about this tomorrow. Hopefully he'll be able to give an answer. Say, what changed? We had this counterintelligence matter. What evidence have you seen of a crime? He's probably not going to give me a straight answer, but I think that that's important. What he said to the senators who then reported to the press today, because they had a briefing, was that he was concerned about how the department's reputation would come out of this with all the firestorm. But Lou, the problem with that is that's not what the regulations provide for. And so I think he's got to answer some questions about how this came to be. Now, that said, the fact that there has not been any evidence of any criminal activity, to me, we actually could see this thing wrapped up sooner rather than later. That's not the norm with these things. But normally, and heck, you talked about all the investigations that should have been done with Obama where we knew there was criminal offenses. And even in the past with special counsels, there's always been something that they could grab onto. We have yet to see that in this case.
And the Obama administration, whatever you think of President Obama or any of the officials of his administration, they were, if you would, certainly, without any question, gathered together. There was solidarity. They did not dissent. There was no leaking permitted, and prosecutions, by the way, of those who did. This administration has been defied by the FBI itself, by other intelligence agencies in their refusal to report to the administration those who are leaking and to pursue consequences. We are watching, and I am frankly, I'm heartened to hear you say, Congressman, that this is an attempt by what you style as an iron triangle to steal this White House and to seize history itself. It is a coup attempt against the Trump administration.
And here's the issue. The American people elected Donald Trump president. We have permanent elements in our government who think that really they are supposed to run the show. And since they don't like Trump, they don't like, his positions, they think it's okay for them to go outside of the law and exert themselves. And understand how many felonies have been committed by people inside our government by disclosing classified information illicitly. I mean, you've had at least a dozen, I would say, just over the last 4 or 5 months, and you're exactly right. That was not happening under President Barack Obama. Part of that, I think, is because the permanent bureaucracy liked Obama better, but part of it is that the media was not in this frenzy that they are right now. When we pushed for a special counsel for Lois Lerner, for Hillary's emails, the media laughed at us. Eric Holder laughed. Loretta Lynch laughed. But they didn't move a muscle for that. Here now, you have the forces that are acting much differently.
And it may turn out to be Darwinian, Congressman. The left seems to have stronger stomachs, much thicker stomach linings, and the capacity to actually fight for what they believe. Those qualities are not readily apparent in what passes for a Republican Party these days. Congressman, it's good to have you here, and we're glad you're in the fight. Thanks so much.
Good to see you. Yep.
Congressman Ron DeSantis. We're coming right back. Much, much more today. Stay with us. House Speaker Ryan today claimed the appointment of a special counsel won't interfere with any of 4 congressional investigations now underway.
We are going to keep these investigations going here. And so these bipartisan, bicameral investigations, House Intelligence Committee, Senate Intelligence Committee, are going to continue their investigation.
But Congress proving to be ineffective in investigations, no matter the committee, no matter the subject of the investigations, congressional investigations have led to exactly nothing other than waste over the past 8 years. The House Oversight Committee spent $26 million investigating between 2011 and 2014, including the Internal Revenue Service, spending $24 million on the targeting probe, Congress spending another $8 million on the Benghazi Select Committee. We all know how that wound up. All that money, no resolution to any of their investigations. My next guest has been fighting for extreme transparency on the Obama-era scandals. Joining us now to discuss the appointment of a special counsel, the deep state's efforts to subvert the presidency of Donald Trump, Chris Farrell. He's the Director of Investigations Research at Judicial Watch. Chris, it is great to have you with us.
Thank you, Larry.
I mean, why does Congress, I know the answer to the question. I have to stop myself short. Why should we put up a Congress that does investigations just to create a circus and showtime so they can get their faces before their constituents and achieve nothing else?
You nailed it. It's a kabuki theater, and it's soundbite time for the next campaign ad. What we really need are grand juries. We need more grand juries considering indictments of people and less hot air on Capitol Hill.
Well, the Republicans are utterly contemptuous of achievement and consequence. They don't mind a bit that they look like damn fools for wasting their time. They raise the standard of nobility and say we're going to attack on the issue of Benghazi, where 4 Americans died. It was utter madness, a complete sham, and a cover-up by the Obama administration, and they couldn't bring it to conclusion.
And quite frankly, when it comes to Benghazi, when it comes to the IRS, any number of other scandals, it was Judicial Watch and our litigation that compelled the production of records that Congress then glommed onto and said, oh, look, we can investigate now. If we hadn't done our FOIA work, our investigations, our litigation, they would have had nothing to operate with to begin with.
Yeah, and you know, I think Congressman Trey Gowdy is a terrific congressman, a terrific talent. He was a terrific federal prosecutor. The big drum beats, the horns in the background, and nothing done. And the real crime here on the part of the Congress, in my judgment, is that the crimes of the Obama administration never, ever surfaced, and no one in the administration, not in the State Department, not anywhere, held accountable. You know what the answer is, Lou? The answer is for President Trump to engage in extreme transparency. Mm-hmm. Remember, he talked about extreme vetting for people coming out of hotspots in terrorist areas. We need extreme transparency. You know, with the stroke of a pen, the president and all of his cabinet secretaries can release all the documents and records that they're currently fighting us over in court. So whether it's the FBI 302s of their interview of the president, Valerie Jarrett, and Rahm Emanuel about Rod Blagojevich's selling of Obama's Senate seat, whether it's the Hillary Clinton email scandal, whether it's the State Department records and documents about Benghazi, with a stroke of the pen, the president or his cabinet secretaries can stop fighting us and release all of those documents, just like Obama released the Bush administration so-called torture memos. He's free to do it, and frankly, if he did, it would radically alter the media drumbeat because they couldn't ignore these stories. And I think that you know, extreme transparency is called for. I think it's a wonderful idea. Let's get some accountability. Have you put that proposal before the White House in any fashion? I've communicated it today on our website. No, come on. Let's not be oblique. I'll tell you what. I'll call the White House. Please do. You and I call, and we'll talk about extreme transparency. That's what we need, and show what the permanent bureaucracy has been doing. Let me calm down there as I even say the words. The FBI also, Chris, a storied agency, and I don't want to contribute to the fiction here. Our FBI is ineffectual. It has not been successful in its investigations. It has been connected to all of the, nearly every one of the scandals of the Obama era, and has never delivered a resolution, a report, no matter what the issue. I mean, for crying out loud, on its face, the Clinton Foundation is it's a criminal enterprise. It is. And everyone knows it, thanks to the reporting of Peter Schweizer. Because of the reporting and the investigations of Judicial Watch, we know the issues here, but the FBI couldn't figure it out. And by the way, I hope somebody asks James Comey when he shows up on Capitol Hill. He's so eager to testify about why he couldn't bring anyone in all of those scandals to justice. Another quick point on the IRS. You know, there was no criminal prosecution there. This is a great opportunity for extreme transparency. And the reason why is because the Lois Lerner and her pals turned over 1.25 million taxpayer records to the FBI to have them sort of thumb through them to see if there was anything interesting there. Right. The FBI at that point was compromised. They couldn't bring a prosecution. They were complicit. Yeah, and accidentally so, I'm sure. Of course. Farrell, great to have you with us, Chris. Thanks so much. Thank you, Lou. And we'll join up for that conference call. A grand idea. Be sure to vote on our poll tonight. Do you think special counsel is simply legalese for trying to steal the damn White House? Cast your vote on Twitter at Lou Dobbs. Follow me on Twitter at Lou Dobbs. Like me on Facebook. Follow me on Instagram at Lou Dobbs Tonight. On Wall Street today, stocks recovering somewhat after a sharp sell-off yesterday. The Dow up 56 points, the S&P up 9, the Nasdaq up 44 points. Volume on the big board continued heavy trading, 4.2 billion shares. Walmart shares up 3%. Walmart reporting stronger sales in the first quarter, bucking a slump in retail sales. And a reminder to listen to my reports 3 times a day, coast to coast on the Salem Radio Network. Up next, President Trump questions where the investigations are of Hillary Clinton and President Obama following the appointment of a special counsel.
The entire thing has been a witch hunt, and there is no collusion. I think we have a very divided country because of that and many other things.
That's the subject of my commentary coming up here next. Much more straight ahead, much of which is likely to frustrate, even, well, annoy you. Stay with us. We'll be right back. A few thoughts now on the appointment of a special counsel and the utter hypocrisy being spewed by the left-wing national media and the Dems, both now waging a war after remaining silent for 8 years during the Obama administration. Article 2, Section 3 of the Constitution charges the president shall, quote, take care that the laws be faithfully executed. But Obama's constitutional legacy is simply devastating. Flagrant lies, cover-ups, scandals were the norm throughout those 8 years and caused no concern among the now very, very, very anxious national left-wing media. For the Department of Justice and former FBI Director James Comey, Mr. Obama used the IRS to prosecute political opponents and Tea Party nonprofits, clear violations of federal law. Yet the Justice Department allowed IRS official Lois Lerner to walk. So did Congress, for that matter. The Obama administration's fast and furious gun-running operation armed violent criminals south of the border. Obama tried to use his executive privilege to deny access to documents, and Attorney General Holder simply lied and ultimately was held in contempt of Congress. But beyond that, no consequence. The Obama administration, Hillary Clinton, other officials engaging in a Benghazi cover-up, blaming, do you remember, a silly YouTube video for a terrorist attack. The Hillary Clinton email scandal connected to broader claims of corruption involving the Clinton Foundation. No investigation or charges despite considerable evidence. As former FBI Director Comey once stated, Clinton was, quote, extremely careless, but beyond that, Comey held tight to the fiction she had committed no crime. Is there any Comey memo on the infamous meeting between Bill Clinton and Obama's Attorney General Loretta Lynch? No, I can't wait to see that memo from James Comey. How about you? All of the meetings and all of the telephone calls with the president and the Attorney General. I want to see those memos to file by James Comey. Why no investigation of the Democrats' dealings with Russia, in which 20% of U.S. uranium reserves ended up in the hands of the Russians? And why the Democratic National Committee would not allow the FBI to check their server even after being told the Russians had hacked them? 8 years of a scandal-plagued Obama administration and never, ever a special prosecutor. No articles of impeachment, no one charged with any wrongdoing. Mr. Trump is correct. What he is watching unfold around him is a witch hunt. In my view, what we are witnessing is nothing less than an attempt at a coup of the Trump White House. The left and the deep state are trying to steal the Trump presidency, and they should be consigned, in my opinion, to an appropriate place for their efforts. We'll see. Now, the quotation of the evening, this one from President John F. Kennedy, who said, "The great enemy of the truth is very often not the lie, deliberate, contrived, and dishonest, but the myth, persistent, persuasive, and unrealistic." For example, the myth that all that is sought through the special counsel is merely truth and justice, when the opposite is the real objective. We're coming right back. Chairman of Fox News passed away this morning. He was 77. Roger was a television pioneer. He was a brilliant political strategist. He worked on the presidential campaigns of Nixon, Reagan, George H.W. Bush. Roger changed the face of cable news when he executed the vision of Rupert Murdoch and launched Fox News in 1996. Murdoch, the executive chairman of 21st Century Fox, the founder of so many media companies, issued this statement today. A brilliant broadcaster, Roger played a huge role in shaping America's media over the last 30 years. He'll be remembered by the many people on both sides of the camera that he discovered, nurtured, and promoted. Roger and I shared a big idea, which he executed in a way no one else could have. In addition, Roger was a great patriot who never ceased fighting for his beliefs. Roger Ailes, an extraordinary American, patriot, and great friend. To Beth and Zachary, our very best. Our next guest says Roger Ailes was an extraordinary leader who also fought courageously for causes and the people he believed in. Joining me now to discuss the impact that Roger had on American politics and television, the veteran of 10 presidential campaigns, Republican strategist, Fox News contributor, the Dean, Ed Rollins. Ed, it's a terrible moment. You brightened it a bit with what you wrote today. An extraordinary man.
This was, he was an extraordinary man, and his whole career was mentoring. He was the very best at whatever he did. He was the very best when he was a political consultant. He did the media side of it, elected some of the great people, including Mitch McConnell, elected presidents, started 28 years old, giving advice and counsel, and Nixon taught Nixon how to deal with. In 1984, when I was running Reagan's campaign, I took an all-star team of advertising guys who'd never been near a campaign. I put Roger in charge of it. He taught him how to do politics, a campaign with no negativity whatsoever, won 49 states, and he was very much a critical player.
We should point out he was capable of a negative.
He could fire with the best of them, and he trained a whole group of young people who, because he understood the message, he understood how to communicate. But I think at his core, he loved this country deeply. He loved the conservative causes. He felt that for a long, long time, and why he created this network, is that the conservative point of view was not being heard. And you have to remember, he founded CNBC, he founded MSNBC, it was American Talking before that, came over in the course of a very short period of time.
Can you just imagine the shuddering by Rachel Maddow as you've said that?
Well, it's life, you know, at the end of the day. I'm not sure if he
and that is what is so great, Roger. He created a lot of trouble for the left, and he reveled in it.
And as I said in the piece, he was a man of courage. He was a bleeder, and so he always had to be careful, but he never was careful. Several times I was in rooms with him when it looked like it was going to be a fist fight, and I said, "No, Roger, you can't get a bloody nose. We'll basically have to take you to the hospital." He said, "Yeah, well, I'll take them to the hospital first." I mean, he was a real fighter, two-fisted guy, and a wonderful human being, and a great friend. I'm privileged to have had him as a friend.
Absolutely, and I'm sure that he felt exactly the same way toward you.
We're kind of back-to-back old barroom brawlers, politics. So.
And if I may say, some people might have said hemophiliac. They might have said any number of things, but an old fighter, if I can call you that, calls it what it was, and Roger would be perfectly pleased with the word choice, bleeder. But he made more folks. I mean, he bruised up more folks than whoever got him.
He was never intimidated by that health, and obviously he had lots of health problems the last few years. And as I said in the piece, courage was his defining. He had great courage. He was willing to take on any issue that he felt strongly about, and basically made a big contribution to this country.
And again, our sympathies and condolences to his wife Beth and to their son Zach. Our very best. Ed Rollins, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Great.
Up next, Senator Cornyn warning that all the congressional investigations on Russian interference are what he called a train wreck waiting to happen. I'll take up the deep state's war against this president with Scott Uehlinger here next. Stay with us. Joining me now, former CIA operations officer Scott Uehlinger, and back with us, Ed Rollins. Let me start with you, if I may, Scott. This is, I have said tonight, without question, an attempt at a coup on the presidency of Donald J. Trump. And people are acting as if they cannot see that. people in Washington, D.C. They're pretending
exactly
that this is some sort of legal proceeding when it's actually unlawful at its root. There's been no crime committed, and the only way you can bring in a special counsel is for there to have been a crime to investigate.
Exactly. As they pointed out, as the congressman pointed out earlier in the hour, it is a counterintelligence investigation as opposed to a criminal investigation. The bar for entry is much lower in a counterintelligence, and it does not indicate any kind of criminal behavior. So it's utterly unjustified.
And why is there not more of a storm on the part of the Republicans on Capitol Hill? I know McConnell and Ryan are reluctant allies, if they are allies at all. But to stand up for the principles of the party and to stand up for the country and right and wrong, they're absent.
Well, they're absent. They're missing in action, and this is a very critical time for this president as he goes off to basically lead the country in meeting with foreign leaders and what have you. To be distracted by this, and you're exactly right. This is something where they're going to try and take his presidency away. And these things, no matter how good the people are that are trying to put them together, when you let someone go in and take all aspects of the Justice Department and go investigate every element of anything, sooner or later it becomes a big distraction, and you're going to find something.
This is an operation the CIA would have been proud of if they were carrying it out in a third world country.
Or a Russian intelligence service, for that matter.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. I think, talking about the deep state and all, we need go no farther than last week, the new director of national intelligence, Dan Coates, was speaking about that continued leaks on the part of government bureaucrats are going to continue to be a danger to our national security. Think about that for a minute. It's the head of our entire intelligence infrastructure stating that he is the captain of a very leaky ship. Now, that's pretty troubling.
Well, he's also saying that he's absolutely impotent and hasn't the capacity to stop leakers, when for 8 years the Obama administration rose to historical distinction by being the most aggressive and most successful in stopping any effort at leaking within their administration. Yet now there are a bunch of effete, pencil-necked wimps in intelligence leaking to the august Washington Post and New York Times.
The best utilization of this new former FBI director is to go investigate that, go find out what those leaks are, because that's what's really hurting this country. It's not what Flynn did or any of the rest of it. My sense today is the inflicted wounds that have taken place in the self-inflicted in this administration.
Self-inflicted?
Self-inflicted, absolutely self-inflicted.
Do you think that those are more profound than the leaks that are being
That's what I considered the self-inflicted.
Self-inflicted. My God,
it's when it's your own team. It's your own team that's doing the leaking. Well, and whether they're directly or indirectly, it's not coming from outside.
Well, the fact that somebody didn't check on that team to find out what flag they were honoring and saluting.
The problem is, as you know and I know, there's a lot of people in there that weren't for Trump to begin with, and basically
how about
a lot of them. And at the end of the day, they're the ones that basically are putting these stories out there, and the press are running with them. And I think
so. Why can't we find out who they are? Why can't this president find out who they are? Is there any reason why talented, committed intelligence people can't figure out who's leaking? Are you kidding me?
I believe that they can. President Trump needs to, I think, move forward smartly with his continued appointment of political appointees who need to go in there and help weed out some of these bureaucrats who reached professional maturity during the Obama administration. Their obviously loyalties are elsewhere in many cases.
It's extraordinary, absolutely extraordinary. Scott Uehlinger, thanks so much. Ed Rollins, thank you. And condolences, partner.
Thank you.
Condolences.
You too.
In our online poll last night, we asked, do you believe that we are now engaged in a struggle against the left, the Dems, and the establishment for the soul of the country? Only 95% of you say yes, we are. That makes it darn near unanimous. Republican House leaders embarrassing themselves again. The Washington Post detailed a Republican leadership meeting from last June, a month before Trump clinched the Republican nomination. Kevin McCarthy said this, quote, there's, at least according to the quote, there's two people I think Putin pays, Rohrabacher and Trump. Speaker Ryan replied, no leaks, all right. This is how we know we're a real family here. Well, the family was a little stunned then because leaked it was. Joining me now, senior editor at The Federalist, Molly Hemingway, Washington Times opinion editor, Fox News contributor, Charlie Hurd. Thank you both. Molly, what do you make of such frat boy play at the expense of Rohrabacher, who no one seems concerned about, and the president?
Well, I really do think this was just a stupid joke. And so what's more interesting about it is that it was leaked to the Washington Post, and also that the Washington Post presented this as if it were evidence of some, like, they actually spun it as if they were saying that Donald Trump was taking money from the Russians, as opposed to making stupid jokes about it. So it speaks to how the media are completely corrupt and how they're spinning everything into this, like, frenzied Red Scare. But it also, what was interesting is there have been lots of follow-up reporting about who was the leaker and was it Evan McMullin or was it not, which suggests that Evan McMullin was in the room, which is interesting enough as it is.
Maybe this was his purpose.
And Evan McMullin apparently has denied that he was the leaker, but was he the person who recorded this stuff? I don't know. But, you know, these types of things, like, they do speak to a general problem with or also just that the establishment in D.C. really did reasonably see Donald Trump as a threat. They're joking about it and whatnot.
Let me offer a counter view. It suggests that the leadership of the House is somewhat adolescent and unsophisticated, certainly in their new friends, who seems to have disappeared, Evan McMullin now.
And certainly snake bit when it comes to, like, any kind of messaging program. They just can't seem to get anything through and break through all the noise. And Molly's exactly right. It does underscore just how much the Never Trumper crowd in Washington has, resisted at every turn. And sad to say, so many, obviously Donald Trump has one war front dealing with Democrats, but then the far, I think, more damaging war front is the one with the Never Trumpers in the Republican Party, and even, I think, obviously a lot of people who are working for him in the White House. I mean, as a reporter, I love leaks. I want the more leaks, the better. And when Donald Trump tweets, I love the tweets because it's kind of like he's a little leaky himself sometimes. It's great stuff if you're a reporter. Lots of information. The media should be thrilled with all of that. But the problem is,
I really don't. See, I'm a little, if I may, I'm a little more cautious than you, because I can't stand what the national left-wing media now represents, which is really a colossal force working against our elected leaders in this country, and national security, leaks even from the National Security Council. Molly, let me turn to the special counsel. I can't even believe that we're talking about this. No crime committed. We've got a special counsel, and we got through 8 years of Obama and all those scandals, all of those outrage, and not a whiff.
Right, and we didn't have a special counsel for Benghazi. We didn't have a special counsel when the IRS was actually targeting political opponents and harassing them. We didn't have a special counsel when there was gun running in Mexico, even though there was a referral for criminal investigation there. So I think Donald Trump has a very good point when he's